Hi, welcome to Book Chats number 2, episode 2. My name is Malia. I am your host. In my last episode, I talked about this big old pile right here. That pile of books got bigger this week as I picked up some books at a couple of local bookshops as well as the library. I am going to apologize up front if you hear any ambient noise, any squeaking, any vehicular type sounds. I do have my patio door open and my dog is sitting here with me. I live in a downtown core area and sometimes that is noisy. I will do my best to overcome that though and try to minimize that. But with that out of the way, let's get into things. Other places you can find me are my reading blog, caffeinatedwhilereading.blogspot.com. Let me tell you about my period.com, which is a menstruation related blog and podcast, as well as are you thriving or surviving.blogspot.com, which is a pet project right now where I'm doing a 30-day health reset journey. I'd love to have you check that out. All those links will be in the description box, of course. You can also find me on Storygraph, where I'm at Malia_Ann. That's MALEA_ANN. I would love to see what you're reading. Would love to connect there. But with that out of the way, let's get into things. If you see me looking down, I do have a list of some things I want to discuss, some books that I want to talk about that I don't have the physical books in front of me because they were library books that I've already returned, or they're ebooks that are on the phone, which I am using to record this. Grab yourself a beverage. I have a new to me coffee mug, new favorite coffee mug. This is from Case Study Coffee Roasters in Portland, Oregon. In my last episode, I shared a mug from my favorite gift shop in Sacramento, California called Strapping Store. The link to that video and the chat about this pile of books over here will be in the description box if I didn't already mention that. And I apologize if my voice is a little bit gravelly. I've got a little bit of a cold and it's affecting my throat. I will try to minimize throat clearing and things like that, but this is reality, and frankly I'm not going to edit and polish and perfect this video. Perfection is the enemy of good and perfection is the enemy of done. I am a lifelong perfectionist and I'm working really hard on recovering from those tendencies. So let's get into it. The first book I want to talk about is The Lion Woman of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. I hope I said her name correctly. This book was so good. If you enjoy recent history, if you enjoy geopolitics or learning about geopolitics, this is historical fiction taking place from the 1950s through pretty much today. It follows two women. They are best friends, but they come from very different economic backgrounds. They come from different family structures. One family is very loving and caring and very supportive. The other family is loving and caring and supportive in their own way, but also extremely worried about outward appearances. There's a little bit of redemption in that aspect of the storyline as we go on. But these are two women who start off in the story as young girls in Tehran at a time when women actually had a lot more rights than they do currently in Iran. The story follows them as they get older, as they go through school, as they are determined and driven to grow up as strong women in the world. Their paths diverge quite a bit. Some of this involves relationships and marriage. One of them, as the regimes change in Tehran a couple of times throughout the book and follow actual history. There's significant amounts of history in this book, which is one of the things I like about it. This is a part of the world where I think a lot of people don't know that women used to have quite a few rights in Iran. It used to be very progressive in the 50s, 60s, and 70s compared to today. Maybe not as progressive as definitely not as progressive as the United States and some other countries around the world, even at that time, but still much different than what we know of Tehran today and Iran today. This book also covers one woman taking a very conventional path towards marriage, trying to start a family, the other woman taking a path towards revolution and wanting to change society, wanting to improve things for women, really following a feminist women's rights sort of pathway that ends up getting her in quite a bit of trouble. There is a giant rift between the two women in the story, and one of them ends up having to ask a very difficult but very important favor of the other, which puts both of them in moral and emotional quandaries. It's deeply emotional. It resonates if you're a woman that's concerned about women's rights, especially if you're concerned about women's rights for women in other countries other than your own. And if you like history. I love this book. I already knew a lot of the history, but it was interesting to see it through the lens of two friends. I really strongly suggest that you go out and read this one if you like history, if you like feminism, if you like fiction that involves all these aspects. Next is The Leaving Room. Oh, this book was beautiful. Beautiful. So good. The cover of this one, which is, as you can see, it's beautiful. It's colorful. I probably will go and buy this book because I loved it so much. It takes course over 4 minutes. 4 minutes, an entire novel over 4 minutes. As you're reading the book, you get the sense that there's a lot of time passing, but there's not. You'll find out at the end why it's only 4 minutes. But The Leaving Room, one of our characters is helping children who have died pass from the living life into whatever comes next. The Leaving Room is this magical place that is crafted and created and curated for whatever that child needs by the person who is in charge of the Leaving Room. I cannot remember for the life of me the name of the characters. There's two main characters. Eventually the Leaving Room starts to break down, a hole opens up in the wall, and our main character sees another room that is realistically an outside of a home, a beautiful house, a nice relaxed area. She keeps hearing this music. There's another person there. I believe that person is called the Keeper. The two of them end up forming a relationship of sorts. There's a lot of questioning, a lot of who are you, what's going on, are we friends, are we more than friends, are we not friends? There's a lot of loss, there's a lot of love, a lot of longing. This book is written in the form of a poem, which is a very interesting aspect. It's more for a middle grade audience, probably, maybe even a high school audience, based on a few things that happen throughout the book. It is definitely easy enough to read for middle grades though. But if your middle grade reader does read this, I really highly encourage you to read it with them, because it does involve a lot of death, and it involves child death, but it treats child death in such a beautiful way. I have never lost a child, but my child is an adult now, and it would bring me a lot of comfort to think of whatever comes next, the way it's treated in this book. At the end of the story, something really incredible happens, and it really wraps up why it takes place over only 4 minutes. I'm not going to spoil it for you because that would kind of ruin the entire book, but it is a beautiful story told in poetic form. It is very sad, it's very emotional, but it's also hopeful, and I hope that you will check it out. Whether you get it at your bookshop or a library, it's a beautiful book. Of everything I'm going to talk about today, it's probably the one that I would really recommend you run out and get. It was so good. Let's see, what else? The next one that I read and already returned to the library is Pauli Murray, The Life of a Pioneering Feminist and Civil Rights Activist, by Terry Catasús, Jennings, and Rosita Stevens, I believe it's Holsey. This also is written in a poetic form, which maybe wasn't the best choice for this particular book, or maybe it's a type of poetic form that I just don't really jive with as well, but I really enjoyed the book regardless. This is definitely for, maybe middle grades, like probably 4th, 5th, 6th grade and up. This is a biography following Pauli Murray. She was a Black woman who really is behind a lot of the legal changes that we have in this country relating to Black rights and women's rights. a lot of the changes that she made are beneficial to anybody. They are beneficial to anyone that is of color or female, disabled, or in any way not white and male. She really wrote the arguments that brought down a lot of unfair and unjust laws in this country. And it's a really good look at how she did that, as well as a really interesting look at her personal life. She faced a lot of challenges, not just because she was a woman, not just because she was Black, but also because she was not straight. Essentially, she grew up feeling like she was trapped in the wrong body. Today, she would probably be considered transgender. There is a brief point where they do talk about her feeling like she was a man trapped in a woman's body, but it really wasn't something that was acceptable to anyone other than her immediate family and a very small number of other people that were aware. I really enjoyed this book. I think if you want to understand history in the United States, especially civil rights history and women's rights history, this is a book that you really should read, or that your young people in your life should read, or read it together. I think reading it together would probably result in some really incredible conversations for you and your family. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. All right, now let's move on to the physical books that I have. I finished 3 physical books this week. Well, one of them I finished a while ago, but I want to talk about it right now. Actually, you know what? I talked about it in the last episode. We're not going to talk about that one. In the last episode, I talked about this one. Let's talk about Down There. That was a great book if you are, if you have female reproductive organs and you have any questions, concerns about those. It's a great book for young people, but it's really geared probably more towards older teens and adults. If you have a young person in your life that is on the verge of puberty, that is starting menstruating, I have a better suggestion for you for that age group. Welcome to Your Period by Yuki Stynes and Dr. Melissa Kang. This is a very colorful book. It is similar to Let's Talk About Down There in the fact that it takes on the topic of periods in just bite sizes. You can dip into this book wherever you need to. You can open it up to pretty much any page and read about very specific topics, or you could read it straight through beginning to end. If you are concerned about talking to the young person in your life about periods or about puberty, you're not sure where to start, you're embarrassed to talk about it, this would be a great book to read with your child, or just give it to them if you're not sure, or read it yourself. If you don't really understand periods, if you have only ever used pads but you're curious about menstrual cups and tampons, if you have questions about birth control, and you need something that's a little toned down, a little friendlier, a little easier, this could be a great book for adults or young people, but it's especially good for young people. It talks about so many different things. Some of my favorite things about this book, besides the fact that you can dip in at any topic that you might want to learn about, is that it is incredibly diverse. It talks about all types of body types. It talks about all types of menstruators. It talks about all different types of period products and why some might be better for one person versus another person. There's one picture in particular that I'm looking for. Oh, it also celebrates females as athletes, including discussing how to swim while you're on your period. Let's see. This is the first book I have ever seen about periods that has included someone in a wheelchair and someone with a limb difference. I'm trying to find the picture of the limb difference person because I thought it was so spectacular that this was included. I should have really found this picture and marked it beforehand, shouldn't I? This book also talks about handling your period and period accidents at school. It talks about how boys and men can be period allies. It talks about how to talk to your male friends about periods without being embarrassed. Okay, I'm not finding the limb difference picture, but I did find a different one. We've got some different skin here. There are people with all different types of hair and hair texture, different skin colors, different skin textures. There are a couple of pictures of girls in hijab. There are athletes. Let's see. There are tips on challenges, like going camping on your period. I know the first time I went camping on my period, I was really anxious about it. It turned out fine. Dealing with pain, puberty in general. This is just such a good book. If I could only give people one book about periods and puberty for girls or people with female anatomy, it would be this book. It's excellent. Welcome to Your Period. They also have a second book about consent, which I have requested from my library. I'm going to do a deeper dive on both of these on my period and menstruation blog and podcast, Let Me Tell You About My Period.com. So look out for that. Let's move on to the next one that I finished this week, The Littlest Library by Poppy Alexander. In my first book chat, I said that I wasn't really connecting with this. I think that was just my own emotional state last week. I was feeling rotten and really having trouble concentrating. I ended up finishing this. I loved it. It's so sweet. This is cozy romance. It's rom-com. It's books. It is a free little library. It is a small English village. It is misunderstandings, it's misadventure, it's embarrassment. The main character is a highly introverted, shy, socially anxious woman, which, hello, that is me. This is a very sweet book. It's easy to read. If you have someone in your life that loves cozy fiction and cozy rom-coms, this is a good one. I'll be passing this on to a friend that I know loves a good cozy novel. Those are the things that I have read. I'm just going to look over my list here. Yep, those are the things I finished recently. So let's talk about the new books I'm adding to my already large pile. All right. And if you're wondering about any of this art back here, I do talk about that in my first book chat, which I will link below. If I am talking too fast, please let me know. I get very excited about certain things, including books, and tend to speed up my speech. But if you are finding it difficult to follow me, I can slow down in the future. I'm a former ESL teacher. I do ESL tutoring, and I typically try to modulate my speed based on the receiver's need. Since you are all out there in the ether somewhere to me, and I'm really just talking to my camera, I don't know what speed you all need me to be talking at. So leave a comment and let me know. Let's move on. So these are some books that I picked up recently at a few different bookstores and one stationery store, as well as my local library. I will leave a link to my favorite bookstores in Portland, Oregon, as well as a few scattered throughout the country that I really love that are all independents. You can find most of them on bookshop.org, or you could probably I will leave links to the stores directly below. Some of them are lovely and would happily order books for you or help you find books if you don't want to go through Bookshop, or if you want to order directly from them. This first one is a workbook. Money is Weird. I think a lot of us are struggling financially right now. A lot of us are having challenges with money. A lot of us are trying to heal our relationships with our finances. I got this at a paper and stationery store called Oblation here in Portland. It is a workbook. It is very friendly and approachable. There's a page for you to commit to doing this workbook, a page for a friend to also commit. I plan to cut this page out and send it with a copy of this to my friend. I will be signing this page, and I will ask her to take out the page from hers and sign it and send it back to me, so we can do this together. I like that this is easy and approachable. It's got simple exercises. It's got some journaling. It's got a variety of prompts. It's not very thick. I feel like this is a very doable, simple way to approach money right now. So Money is Weird by Lev Nandel. Then the next several books I bought at bookshops. Here in Portland, we have a Barnes & Noble outlet store. Unfortunately, it is closing because the entire mall that houses this store is closing down. And essentially, it seems like every other week they have a new plan for what they're going to do with this location, with the mall. I have no idea what's actually going to happen. There's been sports centers floated about, major, just multiple entertainment venues, a rock concert venue. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But this Barnes & Noble is closing, so a friend and I on Monday went to the store to see what kind of deals they might have. They had a lot of good deals, but stock is definitely dwindling. So the first, The Flower Sisters by Michelle Collins Anderson. Look at that cover. I love the cover. I actually don't even know what this is about. I just like the cover so much that I bought it. I 100% judge books by their covers. And I'm rarely wrong. Love this cover. Love her hat. Love the wallpaper behind her. This next one has been on my TBR for quite a while. Actually, I'm not really sure what it's about, but so many people loved it that I thought, why not? We have Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. Truly actually don't know what it's about, but somebody that I dearly love really loved this, so we're gonna give this one a try. And then this one, I love a book with a good cover, but I also love a book that involves anything recipe related. I don't think there's actual recipes in here, but just the idea of recipes and food is a good way to get me. The Townsend Family Recipe for Disaster by Shauna Robinson. This one does involve a family named Townsend. They're a Black family in the South. So Mae Townsend has always dreamed of connecting with her estranged Black family in the South. She grew up picturing relatives who look like her, crowded dinner tables, bustling kitchens, and of course the Townsend family barbecue. However, her father would never take her to visit her extended family. So there's a lot of mystery there for the main character Mae about her family. There's a lot of drama, a lot of what ifs, a lot of turmoil. I mean, Recipe for Disaster, what could go wrong? This next one, Bite by Bite by Amy Netsukumato. I used to know how to say her last name. She is a fantastic writer. Writes amazing essays, beautiful poetry. I took a workshop with her once. She's a lovely person, just so sweet, so generous. I'm very excited to read this. Her writing is very visceral. You feel like you're there. You feel like you're feeling what she's describing. I don't buy a lot of hardcovers, but I was excited to find this, excited to read it. And how beautiful is that illustration? All right, these next two, there is a romance and bookstore here in Sacramento. It's called Grand Gestures, or here in Portland. I'm not in Sacramento. I used to live in Sacramento, but I'm not there right now. Why am I talking about Sacramento? Probably that mug from Strapping Store is on my mind. All right, Grand Gesture bookstore in Portland, Oregon. It is 2 doors down from Case Study Coffee, where I got this mug. So go to Grand Gesture, then go next door to Crafty Wonderland, which is a Portland-focused Portland-focused gift shop. Lots of great, fun, high-quality things there. And then next door to that is the Case Study coffee shop. All right, I picked up 2 books here, although I wanted to grab a whole bunch more. My Big Fat Fake Marriage. I read a couple of books involving fake marriage. Of course, we all know what's gonna happen. They're gonna fall in love, right? That is like a typical rom-com trope. But I am expecting this to be fairly cozy and fairly good vibes with some misunderstandings and things in between. I got a bookmark for a friend for a gift. I'm not going to post it in case she sees this. I also got this one, Love in Bloom. City girl goes and inherits a farm, falls in love, misunderstandings ensue. There's some curious, quirky things about the town where the farm is located, some mysterious elements about what is really happening in this farm or in this town. Of course, this is from a romance bookstore, so I expect this to be another rom-com, cozy romance type of read. Those are the books I bought recently. I have a few more books that we're going to chat about very briefly. I got these at the library. Rage Becomes Her, The Power of Women's Anger. I tend to be a rage cleaner. When I'm really angry, I clean my house. I think there are a lot of women that can identify with that. A friend is reading this and really enjoying it. She said it's really good, really insightful. I'm sure it's not about rage cleaning, but the title of it I found intriguing, and because my friend is reading it and I really trust my friend, I thought I'd pick it up, I'd read it, and then we will discuss it. I recently read The Frozen River, which is a fictionalized account. It's historical fiction about Martha Ballard, one of the early midwives in colonial times of the United States. The Frozen River was excellent. It's historical fiction, largely based on fact, with some things filled in, some liberties taken. But the biography of her life, based on her actual diaries, is supposed to be excellent. This is a Pulitzer Prize winning book by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. Very excited to read this. I also recently read a book about midwifery after reading The Frozen River, and they talk about her as well. There is some controversy around her, but also a lot of historical significance for the United States, for the history of midwifery, for the history of women's health. Really excited to dig into this. And in my last video, I talked about how much I love art from the Middle East. So I picked up this book, Art of the Middle East, Modern and Contemporary Art of the Arab World and Iran. And since I just read The Lion Women of Tehran, this feels very appropriate. The other art book that I got is more historical, ancient art focused. This one is more modern and contemporary. I love art. I am an artist, so I look forward to getting inspired as we go through this. And that is pretty much it for my book chat today. Let me know what you're reading, and also let me know about my speaking speed and if you could hear me okay. Those things would really help me make better videos for you in the future. All the links to everything I talked about will be down below, and do all the things the YouTubers tell you to do, like, subscribe, etc. I would love to have you comment. I would love to engage in some conversation with you about these books, but always be kind, be courteous, don't be a creep. See you next time. Bye.